excited to hear more from Lauren and using Blackbaud Sky add-ins, Power Automate, and Outlook. Just a reminder, please stick around. I will kick off a survey at the end of the presentation, and the top 3 rated presentations for Dev Days this year will receive invites to go to Blackbaud BBCon in Seattle in September. So you can send Lauren to Seattle and give her that golden ticket with your response to the survey after the presentation. So thank you all. I'll pass it over to Lauren now. And feel free to use the Q&A function if you have any questions, or the chat. I'll monitor the messages, and we'll probably have time towards the end for questions and answers. Thanks so much. Over to you, Lauren.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks everybody for being here. So today I wanted to talk about process that I went through at my school to automate enrollment and withdrawal notifications for students. So one of the challenges that we were facing as a school is that our out of season, we have a pretty set enrollment season, but of course there are enrollments and withdrawals that happen outside of that primary season. And we were having some issues with communicating that throughout the school and to everybody who needed to know. So this was brought up as an issue through our very informal data committee, and seemed like a pretty relatively easy first lift and would have a lot of impact on helping to keep everybody on the same page and making sure that we weren't sending college emails to students and parents who had left the school, and were including everybody who needed to know that information. So the solution that we arrived at was to build a Power Automate flow using advanced lists. And we are a Microsoft school, so we use Outlook for our email communications, to use Power Automate to pull in that list and then send a weekly email to everyone with the pertinent information, what they needed to know. So first, we started with building the advanced lists in education management that would get us the population that we were looking for. And because of the way advanced lists worked, we ended up doing separate lists for enrollments and for withdrawals. So here is what the enrollments advanced list setup looked like for us. And the date was in there because of our enrollment season, and we didn't want to be including every single student that had enrolled for the year, just those that were out of season, and so that we could communicate that more clearly. For schools that are using rolling admissions, I don't see why this would not work for them as well. But you might want to manually update your dates more often, obviously, than I did for this, just so that the email doesn't get too long or burdensome, and just keeps the most current information visible and present for people. And this was the setup for the withdrawn students. And That I would think is not necessarily on a rolling cycle for anybody other than, graduations. But that was just an example of the setup that we used. And then once we had the advanced lists, we used the Sky add-ins to pull that information into Power Automate. And this was where I ran into not a roadblock, but sort of ran up against the limit of my knowledge. And I definitely want to acknowledge Ben Haynes from Encodian, because he was the one who worked with me to actually build out this flow and format the information so that it would get what we wanted, how we wanted it to everybody. And again, there was, we used the same template for the Power Automate flow for the enrollments and for the withdrawals. But since we were using unique advanced lists, each one became its own flow. Lucy, it wasn't necessarily a part of the flow that was causing issues. It was more me running up against the limits of my knowledge on how to make a flow go and how to get it to give me what I wanted in the way that I wanted it. It was really a question of how to best format the information. I wanted it to go into the body of an email as opposed to going as an attachment or a list or something like that. Yeah. So that was that. So what Ben came up with, which was this really nice format that would populate the information for each applicable enrolled or withdrawn student. So these fields would replicate for every student who fit into that bucket or who was pulled in through that advanced list. And then the withdrawal email fields were similar but different. Again, wanted to keep the formatting the same to help with the receivers knowing what it was and having easy access to the information that they needed to be able to add or remove students or parents from their various communication lists or workflows as necessary.
And Lauren, there is a question.
Yes.
So from Audrey Morris, any chance you'd be willing to share your PA flow and details on your advanced list setup for both enrollments and withdrawals?
So the templates for both of these flows are in the template showcase within the community. And they should be pretty easy to find because as of yesterday, there were a grand total of 4 Power Automate flow templates for education management in the template showcase. And these were 2 of them. So they are in the community for anyone's use.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Are there any other questions for Lauren? I have a question for you, Lauren.
Of course.
After going through this experience, did it initiate new ideas around using Power Automate for other flows that's on your list?
Yes, it did. Actually been sort of tinkering with a flow for our HR department because currently we have several staff and faculty members who are current parents, and they, because of their parent role, have the ability to update their own address and contact information. And sometimes we'll have people who will go into education management and update their address, but not share that information with human resources, which can be a problem for just keeping track of everybody and making sure that, important documents are going where they have to. So I'm, been tinkering with pulling profile changes out through the API and then potentially pulling it into a similar email format to communicate that information with our HR department.
Fantastic. And there are some other questions. So Cameron's wondering, are you able to save custom templates and share them in Power Automate?
So I think the answer to that is yes. I did share the templates in the template showcase within the Blackbaud community. So the templates that I made are available there. And just in general, yes, you can save templates in Power Automate and then share them out to be used elsewhere or for other things. They can be edited from the template.
Great. And Vicky, I'll just go through these in order that they're asked. Vicky asks, do you use Encodian in this flow?
Hi, Vicky. We didn't actually use any Encodian products in this flow, but it was Ben Haynes, who is the Power Platform lead at Encodian, who I worked with personally to build this out and format the flow and the information.
Great. And then Bruce was asking, did you consider any other technology other than Power Automate? And if so, why did this solution win out?
So to answer the first part, not really. I think I mentioned that we are a Microsoft school operating in a Microsoft environment. And so Power Automate seemed to be the natural choice for us in our environment. I know a lot of schools are in Google and that there are other programs that will sort of be able to do the same kind of work. But Power Automate won out basically because I knew about it and had access to the Blackbaud community and the Power Automate user group, and that they're operating in a Microsoft environment at our school.
Thank you. And Kathleen is wondering, was this your first time building a flow in Power Automate?
It was, yes, which is a big part of why I enlisted Encodian to help with the building because I knew what I was starting with and what I wanted the end result to be, but really did not know the nuts and bolts of how to get there.
Just to follow up on that question, is there anything that you learned about using Power Automate through this experience that you'd recommend for someone who's taking on their first Power Automate project?
I would say that working with an expert was a really good idea. Yeah, as I said, I was just learning and had a basic idea of the functionality, but I am not a coder. I don't come from a coding or computer science background. So having somebody who knew what I wanted and how to make it go was really helpful.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this presentation. Are there any more questions? We have some more time available, if so. Well, as you're thinking about that, I will launch the survey. Please provide us your feedback and fill out that survey. And if there are any other questions, feel free to add them to the Q&A or the message board, the chat board. Okay, well, Lauren, thank you so much for sharing your experience and this project. It's really so fascinating to see, and love hearing about people taking time to pick up new tools and going through the experience of building great stuff. Thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful Dev Days experience, and hope to bump into you in the days to come.